Good afternoon. How are you? When I was preparing for these slides, I was actually hoping to learn a new Icelandic greeting so that I could talk the local language. But throughout the sessions today and in the last few days, I learned that you guys are really practical jokers and you have a great sense of humor. So I was going to ask Gunnar from Clara for the greeting, the translation into Icelandic. And then I learned that he's been joking around with his team in San Francisco. And to everybody in the city, he has told them that the word for cheers when you toast is simmerskrá, which is the word, I'm told, that means bookshelf. So if you go to San Francisco, half of the city says simmerskrá. And therefore I decided I'm not going to risk it, and I'm not going to ask him to tell me how to say an appropriate greeting today. So you're stuck with my English. But how many of you know this map? Have you seen this map before? Raise your hand. What is it? There you go. This is actually only 10% of Facebook users. About 10 million or so that an intern at Facebook decided to map out based on the nodes that would be users, people, and the connections that they have through the friendship networks. So what I wanted to show you with this is that today the world is defined in a very, very, very different way. And even though today we talked a lot about the US, Silicon Valley, Boston, Colorado, and Iceland, we're really talking about a global revolution when we talk about entrepreneurship of startups. So Thomas Jefferson, a few years back, said that every generation has a revolution, something that we believe as a cause, and we pursue that. And I truly believe, like The Economist mentioned, that the revolution of our generation is entrepreneurship. And why are they doing this? What is the motivation that's driving all of these young people all over the world to create companies?
I am an entrepreneur. Sorry, ¿cómo era? An entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur because I have passion for life.
Life is full of dreams, and when you're working on your own idea, it's not work.
Holding something in my hand, that's my own. Challenging and exciting.
And the way I like it.
Because I am.
Making a difference, because I love the thrill.
Solve problems in new ways. Do you know what you thought I said?
To work about my talent.
Creating stuff.
Solving problems. Make a difference in somebody's life.
Okay, let me think of one and then...
It's not good?
Oh, good.
The word, my talent.
Roja ya, no.
I'm good in this thing. Okay, I don't know.
We will do something nice. No choice.
All my energies.
Something good.
Change the world.
Change the world.
Change the world.
Because I feel it. I don't know why.
Well, let's go.
Because I like it.
Because I can.
Because of that.
Anything else? That's it.
And this is not coincidence that this is happening today. Very recently, there have been a number of studies that have shown the role of entrepreneurship in creating economic development, jobs, GDP increase. For example, a study by MIT and Kaufman on the role of startups that came out of MIT. They surveyed a lot of the alums that came out of the school, and they realized that in the last 2 decades, about $2 to $3 trillion are made annually by MIT startups alone. So one school and the graduates have created companies that today, every year, make as much money as the 7th economy in the world. The second point is that also in terms of job creation, most of the jobs that have been created in the US in the last 3 decades are from companies that are younger than 5 years. So at the macro level, this is very important to all of us. But also, this picture is very, very symbolic on the era that we live in. I show this picture to my parents every day when they complain about me not finishing my PhD. Well, this is what's happening today. You get degrees, you get postdocs, you publish, and then there are no jobs. In contrast, you look at the startup world, and they are hiring. This is an actual sign that's near my office, around the block. And there's such a high demand for software engineers that companies are using very interesting strategies, like putting up signs and saying, free food, come up, free beer, we're going to give you a job here. And this is why you see a lot of those testimonials that I showed you earlier from the video. That's actually taken from a boot camp that occurred at Stanford that gathered 100 top entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs from all over the world. And they were there. And when you ask them, why you're doing this, why did you travel half of the world to be here working on your startups? Because they can, and because they have to now, because of the situation. Now, when we talk about high-tech entrepreneurs, we saw a lot of the characters today from the local scene and some of the representatives from the US. But what are we talking about? Who are these people? Who are driving these high-tech entrepreneurship programs and running the companies? So I wanted to share with you a real story that happened to a friend of mine, Jeff Hoffman, who created a multi-billion-dollar business, Priceline, which is a travel site in the US, similar to Orbitz and Expedia. So what do you see on this picture? It was a question that I asked to Jeff Hoffman one day at work. What do you guys see? It's a parking lot with cars, right? So one day he was coming to work. It was his first job out of his PhD. He really wanted to be a rocket scientist. So he was at this job, and his boss, who to him was the smartest person in the world, was really happy with him, seemed to like his work, and said one morning in front of this window, hey, Jeff, what do you see here? So Jeff said, can be a tricky question. It's a parking lot with cars. And the boss said, yes, that is correct. So today I called you up here before you go into the office because I wanted to offer you a promotion. But first you have to answer a question correctly. If you do, you'll walk out today with a promotion. So first part of the question was correct. And the second question was, do you know why I come here every morning to this window and I see through the parking lot and I look at the cars? Do you know why I come every evening and I look through the window? And Jeff said, I guess it worked the first time, so I'm going to say the same answer again, because you want to look at the parking lot with cars. And his boss said, that's correct. Do you know why I do that? And Jeff said, I have no idea. And the boss said, because I want to see whose car is in this parking lot every morning first, and whose car is in this parking lot every night last, who leaves the last from the office. So this is a critical question to you, Jeff. What are you going to do tomorrow? Whose car am I going to see in the morning, first thing at 7 in the morning? And Jeff said, well, that's obvious. You're going to see mine, because I'm going to buy an extra car, leave it in the parking lot 24/7, and I'm going to come in whenever I want. Okay? So this is the character of an entrepreneur. Jeff obviously thought he was funny. The boss didn't think that. And his boss said, look, Jeff, you are walking away from this promotion because I'm not going to give it to you. And now that you answered like this, I'm going to tell you why. There are 3 reasons why I guarantee you're going to be a failure in this industry, and you're fired. The first reason is that, first of all, I mean, you have no respect for authority. You're irreverent, always challenging me and the authority around you. And that's not going to work in this corporate culture. The second issue is that you also are unfocused. I come to your desktop, to your computer, you're always researching and learning about random things that are not really relevant for your task today. And 3, you have no patience. You're always looking for, I don't know what that was, but the patience issue is a problem because we have bureaucracies. It's a large corporation. We do research. You have to learn how to be patient, because without that, you're never going to climb up the corporate ladder. So Jeff obviously was very upset about this, and he went home, got depressed for a month or so, and then he decided, I'm going to see if I can get another job. I know somebody who was a mentor of mine for a long time, and he's an entrepreneur. Maybe he's not as smart as my former boss, but I'll have lunch with him and see what he says. So they're having lunch. And Jeff was really depressed. I mean, he was really down. So this mentor wanted to cheer him up, and he said, I'm going to be very honest with you, and I will tell you 3 character traits, personality traits that you have that are going to make you stand out. You're going to be a great entrepreneur, and I have no doubt that you're going to succeed in life. And guess which 3 personality traits he mentioned? 1, your curiosity. You're always curious about learning and being on top of new topics. 2, you're actually slightly impatient, which means that you want to get things done. You're an execution-oriented person. And 3, you never accept the status quo and the solutions in the market as the solutions to follow. You're trying to innovate over those, so you challenge authority. And therefore, I reassure you that you will have a great, successful life. And he did. So how many of you feel identified with these personality traits and this personality? Raise your hand if you are here because you feel identified with the stories. Very good, at least half of you. For those of you who didn't, there is the CCP showed the cubicles, and as you see, there is a future for you guys for a long, long time. You may never leave that job, but there is an option for you. And then I wanted to show that this is not something that's only happening in these areas, but really it's a global phenomenon. And I wanted to share one story with you of what we did in Malaysia, similar to what Mala did here in Iceland, where the community got together and created a program that's connecting the world, Malaysia with specifically Silicon Valley, but with the rest of the world in training those entrepreneurs.
Let's get it started in here.
And the bass keeps running, running, and 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 running, running, and
in this context, there's no disrespect, so when I bust my rhyme, you break your necks. We got 5 minutes for us to disconnect from all intellect and let the rhythm affect. To lose the inhibition, follow your intuition, free your inner soul and break away from tradition. Cause when we be out, girl, it's pulling me out. You wouldn't believe how we wow shit out. We burn it till it's burned out, turn it till it's turned out. Act up from northwest, east side. Everybody, everybody, let's get into it. Get stoned, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
lose control of body and soul. Don't move too fast, people just take it slow. Don't get ahead, just jump into it. Y'all hear about it? The P's will do it. Get started, get stupid. Don't worry about it, people will walk you through it step by step like an infant new kid. Inch by inch with a new solution. Transmit hits with no delusion. The feeling's irresistible and that's how we move it.
Everybody, everybody, let's get into it. Get stoked, get it started, get it started, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Keep running, running, and running, running.
Come on, y'all. Let's get it.
All right, so that's a project we did last year with Startup Malaysia. And there's always in these ecosystems a process of community building where the entire ecosystem, the government, the universities, and the entrepreneurs get together to create momentum. And once that momentum is present, what we did was to bring the people who had actually access to the resources. So mentors, potential mentors, people who had built companies earlier, for example, the founders of LinkedIn, Priceline, the founder of AngelList, and YouTube. And they sat down with the entrepreneurs one-on-one for 20, 30 minutes each, and they were offering their knowledge on how these companies could be successful globally. And the second thing we did was to bring a lot of investors. This is one model where you have community building and then identification of the top performers and bringing those to an international visibility platform. The second model is the one that we do with Startup Chile, which I don't know if you know of. How many of you have heard of Startup Chile? Okay, some of you. It's a program that assigns you $40,000 of grant, so it's not even diluting, it's not for equity. But the government gives you $40,000 to come to Chile for 6 months, and all they want is that you stay there, active in the community, and build your company. So you don't have to stay there for a long time afterwards, you don't have to incorporate or hire anybody locally, and you don't even have to become a Chilean investment, so they don't have to be invested by local investors. And this has been very, very successful, which could be also useful in the case of Iceland, where you're attracting the international community of entrepreneurs to your country, and then use that social capital and community to build your companies. Now, we're talking about sustainable ecosystems and entrepreneurship that's global, but in order to do that, I thought I would share with you 5 fun myths that I hear a lot in the world of entrepreneurship on what you need and what type of entrepreneurs you need to create healthy clusters of entrepreneurship. So the number one myth is that a lot of people say, I want to create companies, but I can't because in this ecosystem, there are no people with ideas, and I don't have a good idea. I don't really know what to build. And for those of you who know PayPal, do you use PayPal here in Iceland? Yes? PayPal was created in 1999, and it got a lot of VC backing. And that year was voted the worst startup funded by a VC of the year. Because they had this really complex concept of having Palm Pilots phones that would shoot infrared lasers to each other, and that way transfer money from one customer to the other when you're, for example, at a restaurant and you're trying to share the bill. And they had this campaign with Star Trek. Beam Me Up was a very well known from the Star Trek community. So they used this and they were burning $10 million a month in marketing for this product that was not being picked up. So the original idea was actually very poor. But they transformed it by having a side project, which was a website that was getting a lot of traction. And if you talk to the founders, they'll tell you, it was really a painful process, but at some point they realized that they had to actually switch from their original idea to this new product that just was kind of random, almost accidental, that they got right. So good ideas are not always essential to have a healthy ecosystem. In fact, you need a lot of bad ideas, because for every 1,000 bad ideas, you'll have a few really good ideas that will come out of the community. And when I say this, it's not just for the entrepreneur, but for the ecosystem in general. In Silicon Valley, what happens is that everybody's very trusting. So if I have an idea, I'll go to the coffee shop next door, and there are a number of CEOs, founders who are there. I'll share my idea with them, and more likely than not, the idea has been already thought of by somebody else. They will say, oh yeah, I thought about this 2 years ago, and this is what I did for research, and the reason why I dropped it was X, Y, and Z. So when I'm building my idea over that, I'm already starting with a lot of knowledge and lessons learned from somebody else. And collectively, we improve those ideas into becoming good ideas, like PayPal eventually did. They had a lot of competition. Actually, there are so many fun stories of, there are two companies, PayPal and the competition, that were doing exactly the same thing, and they had offices next to each other. So they used to hide in the bathroom stalls to overhear people from the other company talking about product ideas. And then they even discovered a person dressed like a homeless guy who turned out to be an employee from the other company who was going through the trash to see if they could guess the new direction of the company. Anyways, a lot of war stories, but the truth is that they didn't really improve these ideas by themselves. It was really a collective idea improvement process. And Airbnb is like Couchsurfers. It's a company that was created through the Y Combinator incubation program, acceleration program. And they initially had this problem that they had this idea that they wanted to pursue, but the founders didn't have a lot of money. So they needed $30,000 to start the company, the first prototype that they could show to investors. And they said, maybe it will take us too long to raise $30,000 and prepare all of these business presentations and decks. Why don't we just think of a creative idea of raising money? So they went to, this was in the year Obama was campaigning, and they realized that he really did a good job at gathering people, young people, in these campaign rallies, where they always come and gather, and they're usually very hungry. But there are not many service providers on the ground there. So the founding team of Airbnb went and sold cereal. So they bought cereal at Walmart for a few cents, Cheerios, and then they repackaged it with different pictures of Obama, and they would sell it for $5 or more. So in a very short time period, they were able to raise $30,000 that they used to start their company. So I heard a few of you saying, it's really hard to raise capital in Iceland. And that's actually true in most of the world, even in Silicon Valley now, because there's so much competition that you have to stand out relative to thousands and thousands and thousands of companies that are being created every year. So sometimes you have to be more creative, but it's usually not the type of excuse that you can allow yourself if you really want to create your company. And a lot of you probably have heard this quote from Michael Jordan many, many times, but the issue of culture and failure. In Silicon Valley, it's very well understood that failing is part of the game, that you will probably fail 1,000 times at tinkering and iterating an idea before you actually get it right. So just like Michael Jordan said that he missed so many times, 9,000 shots in his career, and 300 of them he was at a critical point and he missed it. But that was the only way he learned from it and was able to be successful. The next myth is about the role of CEOs and the character of CEOs. Many people, especially young people, associate being a founder of a startup company to being very risk-taking. So pictures like this with Richard Branson jumping off planes and parachuting and all these daredevil activities, a lot of entrepreneurs think that you have to be very carefree, you know, like the Vikings when they got on a ship and they just sailed without knowing where they're going to get to, that entrepreneurs are similarly very risk-taking. And it turns out that that's actually not true. Many studies have shown that many of these founders and CEOs are quite boring. If I read actually literally, CEOs are organized, anal retentive, and obsessive, and they're extremely boring. And I found this to be actually very true in some of the most successful CEOs that you see in Silicon Valley. They are very systematic, they're extremely process-oriented, and their personal lives are very boring because they don't have any time to have a social life. And also, because they have controlled and measured risk at work, at home they tend to be very, very averse to risk. So for example, one of the CEOs in a company I worked for before, he wouldn't eat different things every day because that was too risky. He had this concoction of shakes that had the extreme optimal nutrition for him, and he drank that every day for 2 years at noon for lunch and didn't deviate from that at all. So if you know, some of you are think of yourself as somebody who would like to have some comfort in the process and on a systematic career, startups are actually pretty good choices for you too. And finally, this is actually a very big trend right now in the entrepreneurial rhetoric, that entrepreneurs and CEOs are not in it for the money. And you heard this from some of the previous speakers, but money doesn't really drive entrepreneurs these days. What they want to do, if you ask the most successful CEOs that built billion-dollar companies, they want to win at something. They really want to create something with impact. And ultimately, they do look for self-actualization, for happiness in their own personal lives, and also in making customers happy. And for example, Zappos is a shoe company that was sold to Amazon for $1 billion. And one of the main reasons why Amazon bought the company was because of their culture and how in their value system, happiness was #1 priority. So now, given that we have this picture of who these entrepreneurs are, some of the myths around it, what to do next? What is the next step for you guys? So I'll tell you about something we're running in July this year.
By irreverent, unreasonable people is what changes the world.
And sees the world in a way we've never thought of.
Right? If you just start the idea, you don't really, you don't deserve as much as the guy who actually did it.
Is the difference between heavyweight champion of the world and every other boxer.
How might we make a wallet more like a Mac computer?
I'm talking about passion.
You break that up into smaller components.
Where it's conceived by knowing your product.
After having investors not want to talk to us,
the $20 million or the $2 million or the...
We want to back an awesome team.
A switch was turned and all of a sudden all the investors started reaching out to us and they were all competing to invest in us.
But you need to start with a good idea.
Which is a night lamp that turns on and off automatically.
Around making education more accessible to anyone.
A store that works on all biomass.
You just stop with your phone on the table, you can place your orders.
Connect the study abroad students within China to the migrant schools.
Okay.
So, what exactly are you putting in here?
First off, it's safe. Follow the law.
And design a long
How
household energy cook stove.
We are unique in the market.
We raised a small angel round.
And wouldn't mind taking care of another fellow too.
Booming number of people between 20 and 40 years old.
So it makes it very easy for me to refer back to.
Our social link, global reach, and products.
And very simple for my friends to view my recommendations.
It's a huge challenge to understand very deeply.
The heat into electricity for LED lighting, mobile charging, etc.
Easy to use and it's cheap and available.
Hopefully exponential growth after that.
Great pleasure meeting every single one of you.
It was a really inspiring opportunity.
To get to know so many really brilliant people.
And learning as much about you as possible throughout this whole time.
It's easier to meet great people.
No lo esperaba, de verdad, me sorprendió bastante representar a Latinoamérica.
Es muy difícil transmitirlo solo con palabras.
This is a camp that we're running in July in Silicon Valley, and the idea is to bring a very global group of entrepreneurs from all over the world. So we have 120 entrepreneurs from Latin America, Asia, Southeast Asia, some Europeans, and Asia, Korea especially. And we are going to bring them to the Stanford campus. This is in collaboration with a group at Stanford, where we'll be teaching you entrepreneurship the way Stanford kids learn it, as well as give you access to a lot of networking opportunities to meet investors. So the project or the program is 4 weeks long, and every week you'll be able to work on your projects and get feedback from the perspective of all of the Silicon Valley investors and VCs. So if you would like to learn more about this camp, do write me to rebecca@unil.com, and then I'll send you more info. Thank you.